Who won the 2020 election?
I'm not going to do this with you.
This is a job interview. We've established that you have an obligation to be honest and forthright with the committee. Yes, you do have an obligation to be honest and forthright with the committee?
Yes.
Who won the 2020 election?
Like I said, I'm not going to get into that with you.
Isn't it humiliating to be unable to answer this question? To have to indulge the president's delusions? We know, you know, everybody in this room knows the truthful answer to that question. Why can you not give it? If the White House Chief of Staff or the President asks you to travel somewhere across the United States and oversee the execution of a domestic search warrant on a sensitive election facility, will you do it? You have an obligation to be honest and forthright with this committee, correct?
Yes.
And is it the case in the Juan Hernández case that the President of the United States pardoned a man who had worked with the Sinaloa cartel to facilitate massive narco trafficking into the United States?
I don't remember the specifics of that case.
He was convicted in your district.
He was convicted.
Yeah.
We convict
Right.
a lot of people for a lot of drugs.
Convicted of narco trafficking, yes?
I believe so.
No, so at massive scale, yes?
Well, you're telling me what I know. That's kind of, he was, I believe, look, I'll take your word for it. He was a convicted narco trafficker.
Did the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, pardon a convicted narco trafficker?
I believe we just discussed that. The President provided a pardon, yes.
Yes or no? Did the President of the United States pardon a convicted narco trafficker?
Yes.
Who won the 2020 election?
I'm not going to do this with you.
This is a job interview. We've established that you have an obligation to be honest and forthright with the committee. Yes, you do have an obligation to be honest and forthright with the committee?
Yes.
Who won the 2020 election?
Like I said, I'm not going to get into that with you.
But you do have an obligation to be honest and forthright with the committee.
Is anything that I just said not honest or forthright?
Yes, you're not being honest or forthright. Who won the 2020 election?
I think I've answered the question. We can keep doing this.
Well, we're going to keep doing it because you're not being honest and forthright.
I'm not going to engage in the theater.
It's a simple question, Mr. Clayton.
And I've answered
Who won the 2020 presidential election?
I've answered it.
You're here asking for the support of senators to lead America's intelligence community. We've established that you have an obligation to be honest and forthright with this committee and with the American public, but you refuse to answer a simple matter of fact about the 2020 election. Is that right?
No, that's not right.
Then answer the question. Who won the 2020 election?
I have answered the question.
Answer it. What is your answer?
I've given you my answer.
What is your answer? You refuse to answer a basic question about who won a presidential election, but you asked to lead America's intelligence community? Isn't it humiliating to be unable to answer this question, to have to indulge the president's delusions? We know, you know, everybody in this room knows the truthful answer to that question. Why can you not give it?
I think I gave you the answer.
Are you aware that Director Gabbard was present at the Fulton County raid in Georgia earlier this year?
You discussed that with me yesterday in your office.
Are you aware that Director Gabbard was present at the Fulton County raid earlier this year?
You brought it to me, my attention.
What is going on here? You've said at the beginning of this you have an obligation to be honest and forthright with the committee. I'm asking a very simple question. Are you aware that Director Gabbard was present at the Fulton County raid earlier this year? Yes or no? Are you aware?
I was.
You won't answer that question either.
I just said I was made aware of it by you yesterday.
The first time you learned that Director Gabbard was present at that raid was in my office yesterday? It
was the first time that in my recollection I've thought about it recently. Now, was I aware of it before?
What?
You brought it to my attention yesterday.
Okay.
I had not.
So you had not known until.
I had not thought about it until you brought it to my attention yesterday.
Your answers lack credibility. Your testimony lacks credibility. You're being evasive and you're not being candid or forthright. And everybody across the country is going to watch this and know that. Are you aware that former Director Gabbard testified that her presence at the raid was, quote, requested by the president?
I'm not aware of that until now.
Okay, you are now aware of that?
Yeah.
Are you aware that members of this committee are already probing Director Gabbard's potential misconduct in this matter?
No, I'm not privy to your probe into.
Are you aware that the General Counsel and Deputy General Counsel of your office have already provided testimony to this committee regarding this matter?
No.
If the White House Chief of Staff or the President asks you to travel somewhere across the United States and oversee the execution of a domestic search warrant on a sensitive election facility, will you do it? Is that appropriate? Is that appropriate for the Director of National Intelligence?
That's a hypothetical.
We all know it's not appropriate.
Senator
for the
Ossoff,
Director
your
of
time has
National
expired.
Intelligence. Will you answer the question?
Your time has expired.
Will you give him the opportunity to answer the question? Is this not material right now, sir? Is it appropriate for the Director of National Intelligence to oversee the execution of domestic search warrants at sensitive election facilities? Yes or no?
I think you're asking me, as you just said in your first comment to me.
Yes or no, is it appropriate?
Look,
No?
you are asking me to comment on a matter that you just said was under investigation.
No, I'm asking you.
Okay, Senator Ossoff, your time is expired.
The extraordinary confrontation between Georgia Democratic Senator Jon Ossoff and Director of National Intelligence nominee Jay Clayton marks a structural watershed moment in the post-2024 landscape of congressional oversight. Ostensibly convened to evaluate Clayton's fitness to lead the nation's sprawling foreign intelligence network, the session spent its most explosive moments litigating domestic political grievances and local search warrants, largely ignoring the foreign threats the agency is actually meant to combat. Senator Ossoff's opening sequence regarding the case of Juan Orlando Hernández was a masterclass in prosecutorial trap-laying. By forcing Clayton to admit under oath that President Trump issued a full pardon to a convicted narco-trafficker who had actively colluded with the Sinaloa cartel, Ossoff targeted Clayton's former record as the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, the very office that successfully secured Hernández's conviction. Clayton's visible discomfort and his attempts to minimize the matter by claiming he simply didn't remember the specifics of one of the most high-profile international drug trafficking cases in modern history signaled a deliberate tactical retreat. Ossoff effectively demonstrated that Clayton was willing to surrender his own institutional legacy as a prosecutor to avoid criticizing a controversial exercise of the executive pardon power. This evasion set the stage for the hearing's most volatile flashpoint, the baseline question of who won the 2020 presidential election. Clayton's immediate refusal to provide a direct, factual answer, dismissing the inquiry as political theater, struck at the core of his qualifications to lead the intelligence community. As Ossoff relentlessly pointed out, the Director of National Intelligence is bound by a strict constitutional and professional obligation to be thoroughly honest and forthright. For a nominee to treat a basic, universally verified matter of historical fact as an optional political debate is an absolute subversion of the DNI's core function, which is speaking unvarnished truth to power. Clayton's effort to avoid angering the executive branch while seeking the votes of a divided Senate exposed a hyper-legalistic approach to raw partisan pressure. The interrogation grew even more severe as Ossoff pivoted to domestic operational misconduct, focusing squarely on the controversial federal raid of the Fulton County election warehouse. The revelation that outgoing DNI Tulsi Gabbard was physically present at a domestic law enforcement operation, despite having absolutely no legal authority or jurisdictional mandate over domestic affairs, marks a terrifying expansion of intelligence overreach. Clayton's defense that he had not thought about it until Ossoff raised the issue in a private meeting shattered his veneer of administrative competence. For a nominee seeking to command the entire national intelligence apparatus to claim total ignorance of a massive, ongoing scandal involving his predecessor's direct intervention in a domestic election facility is a devastating indictment of his readiness. The disclosure that the Senate Intelligence Committee was already actively probing Gabbard's potential misconduct and had already received testimony from the ODNI's own General Counsel and Deputy General Counsel left Clayton completely cornered. This dynamic illustrated that the committee was far ahead of the nominee in uncovering institutional rot. Clayton's continuous claims of being outside the loop painted a portrait of a nominee who was either dangerously insulated from his own department or actively engaging in willful blindness to preserve his political viability. The structural climax of the hearing arrived with Ossoff's final, devastating hypothetical question: whether Clayton would comply if the White House ordered him to personally travel across the country to oversee the execution of a domestic search warrant on a sensitive election facility. Clayton's panicked refusal to provide a simple, direct no, and his attempts to deflect the question as a mere hypothetical under investigation, confirmed the committee's deepest anxieties. In the context of national intelligence, a domestic election facility is entirely outside the legal scope of the DNI. The inability to immediately denounce such an order as a grotesque violation of federal law exposed a nominee who is fundamentally unequipped to act as an independent check against authoritarian overreach. The immediate fallout of this hearing has completely rewritten the parameters of the DNI confirmation process. Clayton's performance has catalyzed intense demands from across the political spectrum for strict statutory limits on the domestic travel and operational involvement of top intelligence officials. Lawmakers are already constructing emergency legislation to explicitly bar the office of the Director of National Intelligence from interfering in domestic law enforcement procedures, ensuring that the agency can never be utilized as a tool for political intimidation or election subversion. Ultimately, Jay Clayton's testimony demonstrated that he currently possesses zero structural credibility to lead America's intelligence community. His willingness to indulge historical delusions, combined with his alarming evasion regarding the boundaries of domestic intelligence overreach, validated the absolute worst fears of his critics. By prioritizing partisan self-preservation over basic candor and institutional clarity, Clayton proved that his allegiance belongs to the political interests of the White House rather than the security of the American public. As this extraordinary transcript integrates into the historical record, it serves as a stark, chilling warning. When the nation's highest intelligence officials refuse to stand on a foundation of objective fact, the very survival of constitutional democracy is thrown into jeopardy.